Fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. Guys, that was a good point. All right. I want to start off the live by saying that this is a great point. Not just a good point, but a great point because this is a Napoli team that had a lot more uncertainties coming into this season than Juventus, who, as much as they've changed a manager just like us, they had a much better base to start the season with, right? They finished within the Champions League places. They had the budget to go and attract and the status as a Champions League club to go and attract players like Coupe Miners and all their main targets. So we did not start the season at the same level, right? And we clearly had issues, for example, in the first game against Verona. And to come here on the fifth game of the season away from home against your biggest rival and come away with a clean sheet is incredible, right? And now this is 4 games unbeaten. Guys, this Napoli team needs these kind of results. We cannot expect to be a team that is just constantly, winning. That's not what this year is about. This year is about the foundations, right? And I don't know what people want more than coming away from the Juventus stadium with a draw, clean sheet. Didn't give Juventus any chances really. We dealt with everything at the back. And we're still experimenting a lot of new things. Guys, this puts us on a very good track, right? Because this could have been a make or break result, right? If we had lost this game and if we had lost this game badly, it would have killed our season. This is that type of result that we can say, let's build. Let's build from this. It's a great draw away from home and we can move on. And then come the second half of the season when they have to come to Napoli and they have to come to the Maradona, then we see the amount of progress that Conte could do in the space of 6 months, right? But this was just a matter of, can Conte in his first 5 games make us competitive again for at least being in and around the top 4 teams, playing at a level playing field? And the answer is yes. And considering where we were 3 months ago, and even at the first game of the season, that's humongous for us, guys. That's huge, huge, huge. So I'm super happy with this result. Obviously, I want to win against Juventus more than any other team, but just emotions aside, this is something that if you had come to me in August with this result, I would have signed up for it, right? And it wasn't even a lucky 0-0 where Juventus had a bunch of different chances. This was a 0-0 where although Juventus had a lot of the ball, they had a lot of possession, they were not dangerous to us. We dealt with everything, and I really like that. I really like that. Ciao Fabrizio, good match. What do you think about McTominay? Look, McTominay, I think, had an amazing debut. He didn't have maybe that final pass that sometimes he tends to lack. And I mentioned it when we were introducing the player together a few weeks ago, right? He is that type of guy that does have a presence in the midfield. You'll spot him in the game, but does he have that quality of Marek Hamsik? No. And I made a video about this last week, right? He had a great chance to assist Kvara at one point and he didn't pick him out. And that's something that he's got to work on, but he's definitely a force to be reckoned with in the midfield, but he just needs that final quality, right? Can he pick out passes for his teammates? I think he'll get a few goals. That's without a doubt. He had 10 last year, but just not many assists in his game. And when he's playing around players like Kvara and Lukaku and all that, he really has to step up that part of his game. But I think he was one of our top 3 best players. alongside some of the others that we'll get to later. I want to thank all of you guys for joining in the live. There's already more than 60 of you, almost 30 likes. Make sure, guys, that you are smashing that like button. Please, it really helps out. And I really appreciate you guys that do it. I want to get to the members' comments first. And then once I get through those, I'm going to try to get through as many other people as possible. Don't worry, even if you're not a member, I still love you. Helcom says, that was a great defensive display and a great tactical showcase by Conte and Motta. Would love to win, but it is a clean sheet at Allianz. McTominay, I am in love. What a player he is. Look, I think let's not exaggerate with McTominay. Like, he is not the second coming of Hamsik. He is someone that brings something in this midfield that we didn't have for a long time. That sort of skill at times that Zielinski had, plus more physicality, right? Which Zielinski never had. He brings that in one player, and we saw so many pieces of skill today. Maybe not as much flair as Zielinski, but just the skill of getting past your man, right? He does it maybe in an even more basic manner than Zielinski's ways, which were a little bit more elaborate at times. But he has that physicality that he actually can use both going forward, defending the ball, but also defensively intercepting the ball, getting stuck in. What he doesn't have, as we just said, is a little bit that final pass that, it's a shame because he gets into really good areas, but then it's either he shoots on goal and that could go well, or he picks out a pass and 9 times out of 10 that does not go well. So that's just something that he needs to kind of work on. I want to get to Vincenzo's comment. What's up? He says, very solid result away from home, especially this early in the season. Fantastic performance by the entire back four, plus Lobo and Zambo. McTominay showed he offers something different, exactly. Look, and I think for both teams, the defense and midfield were having very good games, right? They were solid. They were good going forward and back. Maybe they weren't so decisive going forward, but they supported their strikers. They controlled the midfield. Both teams had moments where they controlled the game at different times. Napoli a bit more in the first half, Juventus in the second, and they made it very difficult for the strikers on both teams to do well. I mean, our strikers didn't do so well today, but theirs didn't do so well, to the point that Vlahovic had to be subbed off at halftime. And that tells you everything you need to know about how much they were suffering with the way that we were defending him, right? It's not just because Vlahovic is bad. I mean, if Vlahovic was bad, I'm sure Thiago Motta in his first 2 months would have already realized that. It's not like he realized that in 45 minutes of playing against Napoli. No, he didn't substitute Vlahovic because Vlahovic is a bad player. He substituted Vlahovic because the way that Napoli was controlling him in particular, it was a problem for him. But that was the case for Lukaku as well. It was the case for Kvara as well. All the strikers didn't do so great. Laurentio, ciao. He says, why does it feel kind of bad we drew? I think you have to put things into perspective, right? And you have to think, what is the objective of this season? And this season is getting back into the top four, for sure. That has to be the objective. But also getting that confidence back, right? Getting that foundation back and going away from home to a team like Juventus and coming away with a clean sheet is fantastic. And maybe people don't realize that in the last 50 games with Juventus, we've only won 9. Okay? So this is not a place away from home at Juventus. This is not a place that you historically go and get a win. No, this is a place that historically you go and you lose. And if things go well, you draw. And if things go very well, 1 out of 5 times, you get a win. But that is 1 out of 5 times. It's the exception. This is not a place that you just rock up to and get a win away from home against Juventus. And some of our best teams over the years, when we had the likes of Insigne and Mertens and all that, they struggled to get wins there, and we would fall away from home against Juventus. We have a lot of very bad memories in that stadium. And this Juventus team is much better than the Juventus team of the Scudetto year where we won the Scudetto, right? Where we could just rock up there and win, and then they come home to ours and we win 5-1. This is not the same Juventus of 2 years ago. This is a much stronger Juventus, and it's a Juventus that is building towards fighting for the title. That's the objective for them this season. They got into the Champions League last season, and that was their foundational year. This season, you best believe the objective for Motta was or and is to fight for the title. Maybe not win it, but at least to fight for it. So they're a step ahead in their programs, and I think that's key to remember and to contextualize the result. Scudetto point versus a contender on the road, says Napoli Nation TV. Now, I can't wait for Neres to become a starter. Love that Conte switched up the formation, showing flexibility. Look, yes, I think for now we can consider this a Scudetto contender. I still think Inter have not just one, but maybe two steps above both of us. And it will be hard to fight against Inter. I think maybe Juve, Napoli, these kind of teams can fight for second potentially. I just see Inter a little bit higher ahead, right? They can go face to face to a team like Man City nowadays and do well, right? Which is something that maybe we and Juve are not exactly ready for at the moment. Like if we were to have faced Juventus to Man City today, I don't think we would have come away with the draw like Inter did away from home or in the Champions League. So Inter, I think, is still a step ahead. But this is a great point considering the Champions League run and about the flexibility of changing the formation, guys. I mean, in the end of the day, what Conte wanted to do was say, right, who are my top 11 players in this team, right? And when you're putting down your top 11 players and trying to put at least, you gave yourself some rules like I need at least one keeper, I need at least three defenders, stuff like that. McTominay makes that list, right? And so you have to then find a way of, okay, if McTominay makes this list, what can I do to make him play, right? And the obvious candidate to exclude becomes Mazzocchi, right? Because the gap between between having a starting 11 with Mazzocchi versus a starting 11 with McTominay is a lot, right? It's a big gap. And so you say, okay, I have to sacrifice Mazzocchi, but then what does this mean to the starting 11? I cannot play McTominay on the wing like I do with Mazzocchi. I have to now change formation to accommodate this player. So this is flexibility, obviously, yeah, shown by Conte, but I think it's one of those things that like he really had to, right? He really really had to because I think the difference in quality between this starting 11 versus the other starting 11 is too much from a paper point of view. Then we can talk about, well, do we actually like this formation more, or would it have been better with the other formation but just a better right winger? The problem is that we don't have a better replacement for Mazzocchi, right? So then this becomes the option, right? Thiago Motta reinventing football. Remember all those articles that came out like, oh, Motta doesn't think of the football field vertically in formations like that, but he thinks of it horizontally and he puts his formation out horizontally instead of vertically. What a load of BS. Okay, let me say that. But yeah, I mean, actually, he's probably going to be walking away from this result more upset than Napoli because he's playing at home. He had already drawn the last two games without scoring a goal. Now it's three games without scoring a goal. So, the pressure starts mounting on him like, oh, what will you do to score more goals? I'm sure they'll score one in the next game because four games without scoring a goal is a bit much, even like for any team. But the pressure mounts, right? And the fact that he's not able to get that win at home is, it's definitely something that will start to bother him. And yes, our midfield was cooking. Right. Thank you, members, for your comments, obviously, and for becoming members and supporting the channel. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a member. When the QR code shows up on the right, you can click the link or you go in the description, click the link and become a member, and you get sort of a few perks, which we'll talk about later. But I want to get to some other comments as well from the community. Zach says Oliveira, worst player on the pitch. Disgusting play today. Just never helps Kvara and terrible decisions. Scotty did great, just lacked final pass. Neres needs more minutes. Look, I think Oliveira going forward does not provide as much as Spinazzola does, right? But I think it was studied very carefully to put Oliveira rather than Spinazzola because Oliveira, I think, defensively gives more than Spinazzola. I think from a defensive point of view, when you think that the defense as a whole did not give away any chances to Juventus, really, I thought he wasn't bad. I thought his positional play was quite good. Then yes, we can talk about how he doesn't help going forward. But I also feel like Kvara was not very interested in linking up with Oliveira, right? Kvara today had almost a bit of a selfish attitude in the sense that whenever he got the ball, he always just kind of, it felt like he always looked for that individual solution off go. Like he would receive the ball, try to dribble a few players, and then shoot as opposed to let me receive the ball and maybe play a 1-2 with Oliveira and let me pass the ball around a little bit with the teammates. So on the other hand, you could say yes, Oliveira didn't support Kvara. I don't think Kvara looked for Oliveira much either. No, it's hard to judge that one. Simeone with some really bad decision. This one situation, Neres would have been free on goal. The one out the long shot. Listen, I'm not sure if Neres would have been free on goal because we were a long way away from goal, right? We were in the midfield, and Neres would have had a lot to do still. Um, there was a chance when, yes, he passed it with his left foot and it wasn't accurate towards Neres. But the one about the shot in particular, look, I think I think football games sometimes, especially these ones that are so tactical, that are so balanced, can only be decided by something a bit special, right? And you're in the 88th minute, you know, and you see the goalkeeper a little bit off his line, and you just think, this is the opportunity, right, to do something a little bit special. Um, So I don't know. Maybe it's something I would have done as well, right? Because you think, look, we tried for 88 minutes. What's the problem with trying something a little bit different now? And in these games, they are often decided by either a long shot or a free kick or, things that are not normal, let's say, right? They take a little bit of brilliance, a free kick in the top corner, a long shot from distance, things like that, right? And Simeone tried, it didn't go well, but I don't blame the idea necessarily, to be honest. Maybe I would have done the same. Defense was spot on, says Paul the Rican. Olis says, I won't complain. This was a decent performance away from home versus Juve is always going to be a different one. And Caprile barely had anything to do. 2 points, lost at 1.1. Kind of discouraging. Juve seemed to be the protagonist for most of the second half. But listen, they're playing at home, right? At the end of the day, you can't really go to the Juventus stadium and expect to dominate. Like, we are not up against the Juventus of 2 years ago. We're up against a team that is built to fight for the title. And when you're away from home, there's minutes where, like, there's entire stretches where you have to defend. And actually, I'm glad that, like, guys, I'm glad that this happened because, I mean, think about this in a wider context of the league, right? We've just proven that we can soak up pressure from a quality team for 45 minutes, the entire second half, essentially, and not concede a goal, right? This team would not have been able to keep a clean sheet last year if we had been under this much pressure without the ball. And actually seeing that we can close down the spaces, close down the passing lines, I don't know, I'm happy about it. Like, for me, this is a positive point from what I saw on the field. You have to think that what I'm looking for in these first few games, especially of this season, is the team improving? And you can only judge if the team is improving by putting them under certain exams. And the exam of, can you keep a clean sheet when the other team has the ball for 45 minutes, is an exam that we passed, no, and it shows a lot of improvement. So it gives me comfort that we can, suffer a little bit during games and we won't concede whenever the other team has a bit of possession. So I don't know. I see it as a positive. Obviously, guys, would it have been nice if we had kept the ball 100% of the time and we would have scored 5 goals? Yes, clearly. But within the context, I'm saying that it's positive. Within this context, that Napoli is building something from scratch, essentially. And a lot of you guys, are happy with that, right? And Tamiya is saying that we need wingbacks in January, though, please. And I think that's true, right? I think let's not throw away what we had with the other formation, where I think it was positive. It just, if you can have a better actor in the place of Mazzocchi, then you have two different formations that you can use. You can switch it around even during the game, and you have that kind of option, right? I think the formation that we were using at the start of the season with the wing backs, the weak point is that you would have to play Mazzocchi on the right. But if we solve that issue, then we become a very dangerous team because we would have a lot of different formations at our disposal. So yeah. Buongiorno has absolutely revitalized our defense. Yeah, 3 clean sheets and 4 is impressive. Very, very good. And I said in my video last week, where during this break, I said, look, he is the signing of the year for us because last year this team conceded nearly 50 goals in 38 games, more than 1 goal per game. You don't go anywhere when you concede that many goals. So to have someone that comes in and stops us from conceding, then we're good because look, we've got players up front. We've had them last year as well that can go and get goals. The problem was that we were letting too many in and we didn't have leadership in defense. And he comes in and closes a huge gap, and the delta between him and Juan Jesus is just night and day. Night and day. McTominay, very good. Um, Juventus without Yildiz is Serie C quality. Look, I don't think so. They've got a very strong defense, Juventus, and it's no surprise that they're on 3 clean sheets. I think their defense is very strong. They've got a very good goalkeeper in Di Gregorio. Look, this Juventus team is no joke. The issue that they have is that Vlahovic isn't firing, but can you imagine this team with a Vlahovic of Fiorentina a few years ago? Or if they had a player like Higuain, for example, this team would be deadly, I think. But they don't have a very strong, striker. Very pragmatic game, success. Yeah, it's a good result, but yes, we do always want the win. Finally caught a Saturday Napoli game. They are nice, the Saturday ones, because look, I like Sunday midday because I can do the live and then I have dinner and it's fine. When it's Sunday night, the game, and I have to do the live and it finishes past midnight, then I've got all the adrenaline still of the game. I just find it so hard to fall asleep and get ready for the next day at work. But on a Saturday, it's nice because you do the live, and then you've got still so much time to like do whatever you want on the weekend still. Think everybody was good in this game. Yeah, I think every look. I think the defense in midfield was very good. The goalkeepers we do not know. They didn't have anything to do, and the attackers I think below average. They did not really do much. Ciao, my people. Finally, I can be on the live. First time this year. Unfortunately, the game was worse than I expected. Una noia totale. What do you think of Simeone's shot? I already spoke about Simeone's shot. But look, the game was a little bit boring. You know, for those that don't speak Italian, una noia means it was boring. But it was boring, but it's a classic Serie A. This was this was a classic Serie A game, guys. I mean, this is what you this is what you signed up for, right? Like this is not the Premier. In fact, the first half I thought was very open and very Premier League e style, where things were going back and forth. And yeah, we didn't have goals, but I don't know. I mean, the first half was decent. The second half, I agree with you, una noia totale. But I mean, the first half was okay. For sure, Dom deserves more subscribers. Yeah, I know, but you know, I'm happy with the ones that I got, right? It's better to have 5,000 that are, you know, on point, that are just the top of the top, you know, the guys and girls that really understand football, that really love Napoli, rather than just a bunch of random people, right? So like let's open a little parenthesis. I sometimes think like, should I make videos on other teams or other topics? And then I'm like, but why? You know, why would I want to attract those type of people, right? I just want the real ones, you know, here. So yeah, but at the same time, if you do wanna give your love to Napoli Talk, then smash that like button or become a member. Dom, which sub do you think was the worst? Mm, I don't know. I mean, none of them really made an impact, right? I think Neres probably the best. Caprile didn't have anything to do. The others, look, it didn't. They didn't change the game. Like Folorunsho and Simeone didn't do anything that was so bad or so good. I, they didn't really, but also because Kvara and Lukaku were not really doing anything either in the second half, right? So I didn't really feel like there was any difference. Yeah, Simeone had that shot, which was honestly, I think it was not a bad decision to take a shot from there because, as I said, you need something a little bit special at times. And maybe that could have been it, right? Let's get to some more comments. Kvara substitution is a bad call. Um, I think, look, let's speak a little bit about the Kvara situation, right? So I think when you have a situation like this where a player is below his normal level, I think it's fair that the coach subs a player off, right? Because the idea is to try to keep even your best player always at his best. And if you always let him play 90 minutes, then it sends a message that he can afford to have games like this, right? And that you won't ever sort of penalize him. Um, and it also sends a message to the other teammates that, oh, if Kvara can be substituted, then I better perform well because, you know, like if this guy's getting substituted, you bet I'm gonna get substituted if I'm not performing well, right? So he sets the example. Like, unfortunately, he can be made at times the sacrificial goat where you try to set the example with him and you say, as a coach, my level is this, and if you're here, you're getting subbed off, and I'm going to prove it with my best player. um so yeah, I think that just helps to raise the level of everybody, and I think sending that kind of message early in the season against a strong opponent, I think I think is not a bad thing, and it happens in all the good teams, right? That the coach expects always the maximum. So yeah, I don't see a problem with it really, because he was not having a good game. So I don't think he would have done anything, judging by the first 30 minutes of the second half. I don't think he would have done anything in the next 15 that would be very different from the first 30, I think. But we will never know, right? That's the thing about football. You can never really know. But definitely Foloruncho in that position was a bit weird because that's not his natural position. But we all know that it would normally be Ngonje, but Ngonje has his problems with Conte, or rather, Conte sees problems there. So yeah. Oh, we got a Juventus fan in the house. Why did you guys come to park the bus like a terrorist club? Play football. Don't be scared. That has to be that coming from a Juventus fan is incredible, because this guy has lived through years of Allegri, and he is the number one at doing this. So, you know, it's crazy. And plus, the first half, I think we had more of the ball and better chances in the first half. So I don't necessarily agree with this comment, but we accept all opinions. So yeah. Um, and look, it's part of the game, right? Like, take it, man, take it as a compliment that Napoli comes there and they decide to defend a little bit, right? Take it as a compliment that we don't want to concede to you guys, right? If you guys were a worse team, maybe we would not be doing this. So, but it's part. You can't get mad at someone for trying to defend a little bit away from home, right? So yeah. Hey everyone, thought this draw was a great result. Hey Anthony, we are absolutely competing for the Scudetto again. Anthony, my man, is too enthusiastic about this draw. All in caps lock. Love you all. God bless Forza Napoli. My man's enthusiasm is through the roofs. Somebody check up on him and make sure that make sure he's not going too crazy with this draw. I mean, it's just a draw. But yeah. Uh, Wanda, if you don't like it, leave, guys. It's fine. It's fine. I don't mind having. I don't mind having other fans coming on. By the way, like, Wanda, if you want to stay, then you stay, right? Like, but like, with good insights, right? I actually want other fans to get into the chat and give us their view on the game, right? Like, for me, that's super interesting. As long as they are, behaving well, for me, there's no problem with that. Um, Napoli talk. Have to mention that we are playing different game. Conte is playing with less possession. After 2+ years of having 75% nonsense possessions, we adapted very well. Right. Okay. Let's go into the analysis of the game, right? And I wanna start off by making sure that everybody's on the same page that this was a 4-2-3-1, because in some places it's being thought of as a 4-3-2-1, but no, Scott McTominay was not in the midfield with Lobotka and Anguissa. Scott was in the same line as Kvara and Politano. This was a 4-2-3-1. Okay, let's be very clear from that. Let's all be on the same page with this one, because I've seen a lot of nonsense online. Now, what did Napoli do? And they did this in the last game as well. They do something very interesting. Conte is, then let me try to explain this in a way that's easy for everybody to understand. Conte is emptying the middle. Okay? When Napoli is building from the back, like in this case here, Conte doesn't want any players inside the middle of the box, inside the middle of the field. So what does he do? He drops Anguissa and Lobotka almost to the line of the defenders, right? Now, what happens? What happens in this case? The two Juventus midfielders that are inside the box, inside the red box that I circled, they have to now make a decision. Okay? Do you stay there and mark nobody, or do you go and press closer to Anguissa and Lobotka and try to force them into a mistake in case they get the ball, and then you have this possibility of hitting Napoli up front, right? That's the decision that the Juventus players have to make in this moment in time. And what normally tends to happen is that players, these midfielders, they get excited by this prospect of, ooh, I can recover the ball from Anguissa or Lobotka and then I'm through on goal, right? So they move a little bit forward. And you see that they moved forward quite significantly. They are now almost fully in the Napoli third, let's say. No, Weston McKennie very close to Anguissa and so on. At this point, what happens? When we were playing with three at the back, it would be Di Lorenzo from the outside coming in, okay, centrally, and receiving a pass and getting away from his marker like that. And that's how Kvara's goal was set up last weekend. In the case that we're playing with already four at the back and we have two midfielders and then Scott McTominay, Kvara, Politano, and Lukaku. So we have an extra midfielder, let's say, in Scott McTominay compared to the other formation. It's Scott McTominay's turn to come into this box that I've highlighted and receive the pass, right? And once he receives the pass, he's in a position where the two Juventus midfielders are too far forward to actually be able to put any pressure on him, okay? So the only player that can come and put pressure on Scott McTominay at this point is one of the Juventus defenders. And the idea is this. The idea is get one of the defenders, drag him into this position, drag him into this box, get him away from an area that he's comfortable in. And if you can manage to turn around like he did in this case, or play a pass, a 1-2 with a teammate, then you're through, right? Then you've got space to attack and you can hit them at speed. And they've got one less defender in their line and they have to reorganize and they don't feel comfortable because they've got this gap and they have to think about what they need to do. And that's exactly what happened last weekend, but it was Anguissa dropping backwards and Di Lorenzo from the right coming into that space in the middle and then passing the ball to Lukaku and Lukaku to Kvara. But this idea of the midfielders coming to where the defenders are, leaving empty area in the middle so that you can then go and attack this space and bring other players of the other team out of position, that is something that is constant in both formations, no? So it just changes who is going to be doing that role. So yeah, so that's kind of what changes. Now, in that case, the pass was to Kvara. In other cases, happened again, and this time McTominay was through on goal himself. Well, not really through on goal, but he had the chance to to have some space, and he had a nice shot which was saved by Di Gregorio, right? But the idea is this: the idea is to get in this position, attack the other teams centrally after you've pulled their midfielders out of position, okay? And this is something, guys, that if you keep an eye out, you will see throughout the games, because we've seen it with this formation now, and we've seen it last week with the other formation, even though we didn't have time because we didn't have screenshots last week to actually show you guys this concept. But this will happen more and more. Right. So that was how we attacked. Then there was this change with Meret. Let's see what happened. It's weird, right? Because Meret, I don't know why he would be subbed off. There wasn't any clash. There wasn't any nothing. So it's a bit weird. But let's see. Now another thing that I want to highlight is McTominay's position, right? Look, this time, we have the ball. We're in Juve's third, so uh, now it's up to us to sort of play the different balls, and try to find some space. But look at Scott. Scott is not so interested in coming in to help Lobotka and Anguissa and all that. Like, that's not his job. His job is to relieve some pressure from Lukaku, attract defenders to him so that Lukaku has a bit less to deal with up top by himself. And the idea is potentially to get into that far post, right? And in this case, Lobotka doesn't really see his run, but there could be a situation where Lobotka here looks up, sees the run that McTominay is making, and just pings him a ball second post, right? It's not in Lobotka's um, it's not in Lobotka's like DNA to like make those kind of lobby passes, but it could be something that we see, right? But what this also does, because he was starting from a sort of central position, freeing up that space, Kvara can go and attack that space, right, more centrally. But this is what I'm saying though. This is what I said earlier. With Kvara more central, he then does not link up with Oliveira anymore, because Oliveira stays wide to try to stretch Juventus as much as possible. And then people complain that Oliveira is not supporting Kvara enough. But if you think about it, they're in totally different areas of the field at this point. Kvara is occupying the center and Oliveira is all the way on the left. So it's not true that Kvara is playing on the left. Kvara is playing very central. Right. Right. There seems to be a bit of beef. Seems to be a bit of beef in the comment section between Wando and Sevdan and all that. So guys, listen, listen. If you're from a different team and you want to be on this live because you want to express your opinions and contribute, great. If not, if you're just gonna come here and start talking about 38 Scudettos when that's not true, it's 36, man, you've got better things to do in your life, Wando. Like, come on, you like go speak to, I don't know, man. Go speak to other Juventus fans right after a game. You don't have to you don't have to come to a Napoli show. Also because like honestly, like I don't really care about Juventus in that kind of way, right? Like I'm here talking about Napoli. I'm not here like saying anything about Juventus because honestly, like I don't care. I care about Napoli. So yeah, if you want to talk about Napoli, you're free to stay, right? Otherwise, I just block you, right? So you tell me what I need to do, but I'm not gonna kick you out without giving you this warning. So yeah, let's be clear on that. Anyways, Politano, man, what is he doing? Like this is the 47th minute of the first half. You are already 1 minute over the time allowed. So, you know, the chances of even getting a counterattack are very slim. You know, So you don't really have to worry about where you place the ball. And like, man, just put it in the middle. Just put it in the middle. Just, try to beat the first man. But I mean, it takes a lot of skill to hit McKinney here. I mean, I don't know. This guy, he's so like on and off. Like sometimes he does things very well, and then he does things really, really bad. Um, So yeah, this is Politano, right? This is Politano. Like again, some things he does very well. Like this move here, he got past this man. He made us gain like 30 meters, and then he gets to this point, and he tries to bend the top corner. And it's not like he's not capable because he has scored very good goals, but it's the wrong decision because he can lay this off to Scott McTominay, who's in a much better position, or even play a pass to Kvara across the box, and Kvara could take a shot. He's not got the angle here, in my opinion, to pull off a goal because I think the the keeper's first post feels pretty much covered with the first defender, and the second post seems also pretty covered. Like he would have to find such a small area for that ball to not hit one of the defenders and still be on target. And in fact, it ends up being off target. But yeah, I don't know. Like he does one thing good and the next thing bad. It's so bad overall. Like when you compare it to Neres, I think needs to start the next games. Look, we've got Palermo in the Coppa Italia. Like if Neres doesn't start there, and then we have the last thing I want to talk about is yeah, these substitutions. Look, 20 minutes to go, maybe a bit early for Kvara to come off, and he was a little bit upset to be honest, but look, I think he wasn't going to do much, right? It was it was the same as, for example, Yildiz. No, Yildiz is a player who received a lot of the ball today. He did a few things, but you could tell that he was never gonna score. Like it just wasn't the night for goals today. And he could have played another 20 minutes and still would have been no goals. And the same for Kvara. He could have played another hour and he still wouldn't not have scored today. It just was not that type of game where he had the inspiration. So yeah, Napoli played four at the back. He should have passed to Lukaku. To Lukaku, maybe it was the more difficult pass, no? Um, and it's good that Conte tries to use a lot of players. Hope Marin and Ngonja will get a chance with Palermo. Yeah, Marin possibly. That's a good one. I think, maybe playing Marin and Juan Jesus, but at the same time, underestimating Palermo is not a good idea either, right? I know that there's Serie B, but it's still Napoli Palermo is like in theory on paper it's a big game, like maybe the two best teams overall in the South, like historically, let's say. Um, the fans will be wanting to have a good result. So it's not a yeah, it's not an easy game. It's not a difficult one necessarily, but it's not an easy one. Um, Maybe they do deserve their chances. Um, but yeah, but yeah. Man, I hope Kvara scores at a tough game against Juve away, Milan away, or Inter away. That's true. Away from home, Kvara has suffered these opponents, right? But I think to it's not easy to make the difference away from home, right? And Osimhen, for example, was a lot like that. Actually, Osimhen struggled even at home against some of these opponents for a long time. Apart from the Scudetto season, right? He before that he was like first 8 games against the top four teams, like he had only one goal or something like that. Like it's not easy because these top teams, like guys, Juventus have a very good defense. Bremer and like they are guys that know what they're doing. So it's not easy. Um, and I think in these sort of games, you need something a little bit special, right? And when it's not your night, then it's not your night. And I'm sure it will happen, and it has happened before with Kvara at home against Juventus, but today there just wasn't that magic. So yeah. Um, so yeah, that was it. Right. A little bit of player ratings on my side. So you guys, have heard me talk about the game. You've seen my analysis. A little bit of player ratings. Look, for me, the three best players on the field today for Napoli were Scott McTominay. Even though he lacked that final pass, he was very dynamic in the middle. Buongiorno, very strong defensively, keeping Juventus very quiet at the back. And I really liked Di Lorenzo as well because he had a very tough opponent to face in Yildiz, who, full of confidence after his goal in the Champions League, alla Del Piero, So not an easy opponent for Di Lorenzo, and I thought he would have suffered a lot more, considering that, like, if we look at what happened in the Euros, for example, he suffered a lot of these very skillful wingers. He got cooked by Nico Williams against Spain, right? So I thought something similar could happen again, but it didn't. So I think that's a lot of credit to him. So I'm giving him a 7.5 for that. Look, the goalkeepers, no, not applicable a score because Juve, they had a lot of the ball, but they didn't have any shots on target. So I don't know what I can say about our goalkeepers. But overall, the defense solid, midfield solid. I think they did well, closed down a lot of spaces, started a lot of transitions. This was a game that both midfielders I think did really well. Like they were both intercepting the ball a lot of the times with each other, and not because of like bad passes, but because they were, getting stuck in. Oh, my scoreline is 4-0. I didn't change that from the Cagliari one. Let me let me change that. Let me change that, guys. That was my wish before the game, no? Let's see. 0-0. Let me add a big. Ugh, man, okay. This is why I need you guys to become members of the show, because that way I can hire an editor, and then I can blame this on someone else and not on myself. But you guys just don't love me like that, so it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. Right, let me cross that out, and I'm changing this live. Does that make sense? No, that does not make any sense at all. Oh God, this is this is why I need this is why I need an editor, guys. Look, just look how bad that looks. Just appreciate how bad this looks. But yeah, maybe I can, maybe I can just. No, I don't want to open Photoshop right now because then it's gonna lag my computer. Anyways, that's my. This is the correct score. Okay, let's just go straight to this one. Yeah, sorry. This is the scoreline for the home game against Juventus. Yeah, maybe, maybe. Ooh, my battery is almost done. Let me get my charger. Damn, I was about to lose you guys on the stream. All right, computer saved, guys. The stream can go on. All right, battery saved, scoreline fixed. I need a crew. Guys, I need a crew with me, okay? Been doing this for too long not to have a crew. But yeah, it is what it is, man. You can't get a crew when you only have 5,000 subscribers. But yeah. Anyways, this is this is the match stats. Um Okay, Dom, you have convinced me. I will buy Club Partenope now. This is, first of all, thank you, if you will. But this is like so like I feel bad. I feel bad that I've guilt tripped you now. But yeah. By the way, one thing before I because we're talking about that, I want to thank all the members. And here are the different clubs. And on the right you have, guys, it's crazy. There's almost 25 of you that have become members of different levels so far. I appreciate all of you. You'll see your name there. I'll try to update this as much as possible, but just know that if you are becoming a member, just know that, like, you're not the only one. There's an entire group of people, and thanks. This is great. Like, this actually would really help me. So yeah. Um, but where were we here? The stats, right? Um, so look, at the end of the day, these teams did not shoot much on target, one shot each. Us from far away. I don't even remember Juventus' shot, to be honest. But look, clearly not the most interesting game. What is interesting is this table and the fact that Udinese could run away with the title. Guys, if Udinese wins tomorrow, if Udinese wins tomorrow, they go to 13 points. And if Inter does not beat Milan, let's say Milan beats Inter for whatever reason, right? Udinese would be 5 points ahead of Inter, last year's champions. Like, that's mad. Also, what is going on with Fiorentina? Like, bro, at least try to win one game. Same with Roma. They just got rid of De Rossi. Um, I mean, these teams, well, surely they'll be doing better. Even Bologna, I know they've been, you know, like all their best things of last year have been taken away from them, but still, there's a lot of weird things in this table. Let's maybe take a look at what matches are coming up in the next few days. So we've got Fiorentina, Lazio, Roma, Udinese. Okay, so Udinese for sure are gonna be first in the table. Yeah, then obviously the Inter Milan one, and then the next round of games, guys, is let's see, no real big matches apart from, I guess, possible future Serie A leaders versus the current reigning champions in Udinese Inter. That could be a good one. And then Napoli Monza. And look, I think that has to be a must-win game for us. The next one as well, Napoli Como, is another must-win game. Then we have Empoli Napoli. It's a place that we've not normally done well in, but it is another must-win game. Look, nine, then Napoli Lecce. So guys, we have, before Milan, we should really be getting 12 points. We should really be at a very good position by the time we face Milan, right? And then we get all the other teams, Atalanta, Roma, Lazio, all this Inter, all this kind of stuff, right? But if we can get to that game of Napoli Milan match day 10 with one loss and two draws and seven wins, that would be fantastic. That would really set us up nicely. Do you think we continue playing with this, or do you think we'll go back to a 3-4-2-1? Look, as I said, I think if you want to play your best 11 players on the field with at least three defenders and one goalkeeper in this top 11, then you need to have Anguissa, Lobo, and Scott McTominay on the field. You need to have Lukaku, you need to have Kvara, you need to have Buongiorno, you need to have Di Lorenzo. Um, and that's already 7 out of the 10 outfield players. And once you've put those 7 players down, and so you've got 3 midfielders, then you only have 2 options, right? Do you go with a 4-3-3 or do you go with this one, the 4-2-3-1? and Conte maybe is not super keen on the 4-3-3, so then it goes to this one, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think by that logic, we will stay with this formation. But there will be times when maybe, I don't know, based on the other team ahead of us, that will change, right? So, let's see. Let's see. Fiorentina, man, Fiorentina are like a huge disappointment for years now. I thought after they got that Conference League final, I thought they would go on and, you know, just build from that, become a Champions League contender. Nothing. Fiorentina are just in this limbo of between 8th and 10th place every year. It's crazy. It's crazy. Um, and guys, that's like some people, like I don't want to bring this up too much now, but some people criticize De Laurentiis, but you have clubs at more or less the level of Napoli, Roma, Lazio, Fiorentina that have struggled to even get to the Champions League in recent years or have not gotten in the Champions League, let alone win a Scudetto or fight for Scudettos. But those are the clubs that we are normally like associated to, right? And it's only because of De Laurentiis really that we are fighting for bigger things occasionally. Because usually the Scudetto is just between Inter Milan and Juve. There was a few years where Napoli had Maradona, fine. A few years where Roma had good players, fine. Then you can talk about Scudetto and stuff like that, but it's the exception to the rule. So, yeah. Any predictions for Milan Inter? Mm, I don't know. It's a tough one, right? Because Inter is obviously the better team. Obviously the better team. But will Milan have a bit of a like thing about honor, that will play a part. Like they've been battered by Inter recently in recent derbies. They've had very poor results this season. Maybe something clicks in them, but at the same time, maybe they just even if something clicks mentally, they just don't have the quality tactically, right? With Fonseca, so I'm still gonna say 2-1 Inter, but I don't think it will be a bad game by Milan. I don't think they'll get battered by Inter, but I think Inter should still be able to go a bit more. Could you see a 3-4-2 with Politano wingback? No. No, I don't think so. It would be well, I don't know. I mean, Ashley Young did that with Conte, right? Conte dropped him from a winger to a fullback when he was at Inter. So could that happen with Politano? Maybe, maybe. But I don't know. I don't see it happening because Politano loves to just run forward too much with the ball. That's one of his key things. He just takes the ball and runs. And I think if you have that and Neres together, then, if they're both forward like that, no one's going to be covering behind. I don't know. Dom, can we say we are the fourth biggest team in Italy? Yes. Yeah, comfortably ahead of Roma, I would say. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Comfortably ahead of Roma. I think, look, the top three teams, we know who they are. I mean, historically, they've done what they've done, right? So that's just history. That's just facts. The fan bases are very clear with the numbers, the TV audiences, and all that. Um, After that, it would be Napoli, then Roma, then Lazio, then Fiorentina, I would say. But yeah, I think we're clear of Roma for sure. Um, Having said that, if but that's helped a lot by us being the only team in Naples, right? If Rome had one team, if there was just one team between Roma and Lazio, which is a crazy concept to think about, um, then obviously that team would be bigger than Napoli in terms of fan base, just because Rome is a bigger city than Napoli, no? But it isn't, and we cannot rewrite history, so it is what it is. Um, and yeah, let's see what Conte has to say, but also Politano, I think, and also Caprile. Let's see what they both have to say. So let's go and see what the first. Let's see Caprile, since he made his debut. He says, "It was a great emotion. I'm very happy. We have to always be ready because anything can always happen. But obviously, I'm very upset about Meret. Um, yeah. Did he say anything else? He said they asked him about the change of formation. He said, "Look, the formation doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of how you approach the game as a player. Um, it's not a huge thing changing formation, and being coached by Conte is a huge thing for me. He's a very hard worker, and he wants things to be done perfectly." That was Caprile. Let's look at Politano's press conference. Politano says we could have definitely done a bit more offensively. In the first half, we could have done that especially. We knew we would be under a bit of difficulty against Juventus at their home, but we're very happy to keep a clean sheet. And Mr. Conte has been giving us a lot of enthusiasm, and we've been working very hard under him. Okay, so those were the players. Now let's see what Conte had to say in the press conference, right? So Conte, um, so they first say, Thiago Motta says that um, Thiago Motta says that you, sorry, Thiago Motta says that Juventus did better than you guys, and Conte replies, "It's always very subjective. There is fact and data which cannot be disputed, which is that at the end of the day, our goalkeeper did not have to clean his gloves. He didn't even have to make one save, whereas Di Gregorio today had to make a very good save, one on Lukaku and one on Scott McTominay. I think it was a very balanced game. We changed the way we play because of some different aspects that were on my mind. The last day of the Mercato, Scott McTominay and Gilmore arrived, and Folorunsho was reintegrated into the team. So we went from having only two midfielders to now having a midfield that can give you the option to play around with different formations. I had a bit of doubt from a or fear from a defensive point of view, because when you go from a when you go from a three-man defense to a defense that can also be five at the back at times, to now only having four, you could, lose a bit of defensiveness, let's say, quality, but instead that didn't happen, so I'm very happy. In fact, what we needed to do better was offensively. We didn't see that there were some passes for us that we could have picked out. And when we were one on one in very important pieces of the field, we could have definitely done more to create some chances. But we need to improve on that. So yeah, I mean, Conte says the right things, right? Like, we started the season with a 3-4-2-1, which means you only have two central midfielders, because those were the only two midfielders in the team at the moment. Right now we have a bit of flexibility. Um, and they ask him, okay, but does this penalize a little bit more Lukaku and Kvara, who today they felt a little bit too far from the goal? Um, and he's like, look, guys, in the first few games, you guys asked me if the old formation was penalizing Anguissa and Lobotka because they maybe were not used to playing two in the midfield. Now you guys are saying that this one is affecting Kvara and Lukaku, and we saw how actually Anguissa and Lobotka with the old formation actually ended up playing well. So it's not really about that. It's not really about the formation. I mean, once you get used to it, it is what it is, right? Um, and yeah, so he's not a big fan of this talk about different formations. Then he says how much. Then they ask him how much more can this team improve, and Conte says, I repeat, my fear today was a little bit defensively, but we didn't concede anything. We conceded more against Cagliari, for example. So I'm very happy from that point of view. But from an offensive point of view, we could have definitely done more. And yeah, we are working, and we just gotta continue, right? Working on these two systems, and I'm moderately satisfied because when you don't win, you obviously cannot be fully satisfied, but you have to take both the good and the bad. We come out unbeaten against a team like Juventus in a very difficult stadium. It wasn't easy. We have the objective to keep growing, and this result can actually help us do that. Especially the fact that we kept a clean sheet. For me personally, it was a big emotion coming back to the stadium. The least I could do is say thank you to the fans that were there. That I guess his past, as a Juventus player, um, but also to the Napoli fans. Obviously, for me, it's always going to be a very big emotion coming here, and no one can ever take that away from me. Napoli, surely though, is my focus right now. My ambition is to bring Napoli to the top, and yeah, we have to keep doing well, and yeah, that's what he said really, and he repeats a lot of things, Conte, from different press conferences. So I'm not gonna repeat every little thing that he says. Finally, guys, before we kind of wrap up, the match predictor game. I think four of you participated this weekend, but I think there's six overall participants for the month. With Helcom winning with 10 points. I think he predicted a few things right today, maybe something about yellow cards or something. I can't remember because I just skimmed through the results. But yeah, he's on his way to getting a chance to get on the show with me at the end of the month, which is very soon, right? Actually, do we have more games in September? Napoli matches. Like, obviously, we have Palermo on Thursday. Okay, yeah. Napoli Monza is the 29th of September. So if Helcom can keep his 4-point lead, then in that game, then you'll see him in a video with me soon if he wants to. But yeah, you guys can play when you are members of a certain level of the Napoli Talk members club. So good on you, mate. Good on you. Ryan from Scotland, becoming a Napoli fan because of this channel. Good away point at a tough away ground. That's good to know, Ryan. And yeah, it's good to see like Scott Gilmore, playing in the same team as well on a club level for you guys, I guess, because the more these two can play together at a club level, the more they get into that national team, and their chemistry is even higher than what it normally is, right? Um, because they were playing obviously at different clubs before. Um, but also I think it's good that they find an environment that actually like values them, because I think there was a lot of toxicity at Man United when it came to McTominay. I think they didn't really value him, and they thought he was a bit like rough around the edges in terms of his quality. I think the impact that he's had at Napoli already today, like he will go down very well with the fans. And seems like Conte wants to make him at the center of the midfield, change the entire formation around for him. So I think that'll give him like a huge confidence boost, and I think he can improve quite a lot as a player. And obviously, that for a Scottish fan is great, no? So yeah. Um, so yeah, man, good to have you. Good to have you on. Um, just the fact that we expect to win in Turin says a lot about what our team has become, says Mauro. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's what I said at the start. The last 50 games away to Juventus, we've won 9. So it's a rare occurrence, and a lot of these 9 have happened in recent years, and that's speaking to to basically like what we've done over the last 10 years, excluding last year. Anyways, guys, we can wrap the live up now. I think we have been live for nearly 90 minutes, an entire football game after the football game. So I want to thank all of you guys, especially the members of the club, different Napoli Tops clubs, but just everybody in general that's always turning up and commenting and smashing that like button and interacting. I want to thank all of you guys. You make this super fun for me, so thank you. And yeah, a good draw against Juventus. I will speak to you guys on Thursday after the Palermo game. Potentially, because it's on a Thursday night, I'm thinking potentially I can make the video reaction on Friday if I can leave the office a little bit earlier. Because my worry for that game is that it's gonna finish too late. There's potentially extra time or penalties or whichever the case may be, because it's a cup game. It's gonna finish late, and then the next day I have work, and yeah. So I don't know. We'll see about that one, but potentially that gets shifted to a Friday video for you guys. But anyways, see you and have a good one. Ciao and forza Napoli sempre.